Hello and welcome to F1 Daily, your daily dose of Formula 1 right here on the F1 Word. I hope everybody in chat is okay as the chat catches up and sends me crazy there. And also everybody watching, it is awesome to have you with me once again. Still very much trying this out. A few little tweaks tonight that you'll notice after some feedback. So thanks to everyone who did give feedback. Really enjoyed some constructive stuff like that. So hoping to improve it as we go along. I will be coming to you a bit more in chat, which was one of the requests as well. So I'm going to go over a couple of stories, then we'll do a, on this day, a little story at the end, but I'm going to come to you at the end of each of them. But we are going to start with this, and it could end up as a little bit of a moan, which is, I guess, pretty much what this channel's about in many ways. We seem to do a lot more moaning than we do anything else. But the FIA, don't we love them? For the second time this season, they have added a third DRS zone to a track, and it's for this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. Probably one of the tracks, probably right down the bottom of the list, that actually needs DRS, to be quite frank. But anyway, the track map, which I will pop up for you now if I remember to put it on. This is probably where I find out I didn't. I did. There we go. It shows a new zone running between turns 7 and 8, with the detection point for that on the exit of turn 5. That is, of course, in addition to the two zones that we already have. One running from turn 12 to turn 13 and the other along the pit straight. Both of those are triggered by the same detection point as well at the exit of turn 9. Yeah, back in Australia, the FIA added a third zone and it made absolutely no difference to the racing. That is the line I went to just before I say opinion on my little bit of notes there. If you've been following the channel for quite a while, or you've listened to me rant on about it in the past, you'll know my thoughts on DRS. You know I don't like it. But what I will say before I start ranting away, until a solution is found to promote better overtaking opportunities, it does its job. However, that being said, it's Canada, for God's sake. Canada. You could probably remove all DRS zones and still get a decent race, an epic race, a brilliant race. Look back to, I don't know, well before DRS was around. Yes, cars found it easier to follow, but at the end of the day, we still got pretty decent racing. So it's really got my back up today. You know, it's always been full of action. It's always had drama, lots of overtakes. And like I said, that was long before DRS ever existed. And you go back to last season, 2017, the cars were just as difficult to follow then as they are this year. And there were still overtakes happening at the hairpin where there was no DRS. So overtakes do happen around Canada, whether there is DRS or not. So it's not needed, to be perfectly honest with you, in Canada. All right, keep one. That's fine. Like I say, until they've got this sorted with the aero and whatnot, make the cars easier to follow. Yeah, fine, keep one. I'm not a big fan of it. I'd go as far as says I hate it. But at the end of the day, it does the job it needs to do at the moment. But like I say, of all the tracks on the calendar, Canada has got to be right down the bottom. I'm trying to think if there's somebody below that or another track below that. But in terms of needing an extra DRS and needing to improve the overtaking opportunities, Canada shouldn't be anywhere near the top end of that list, especially when you consider, and I'm going to remind you, there was no third DRS in Spain. Spain, where it is notoriously difficult to overtake and always has been, and they didn't put a DRS zone in there, a third one. Why? And, you know, you could say maybe it's harder to fit one in around Spain, but you could maybe say exit of turn 3, bit risky, but you could maybe try that one on the run to 4. There's after 4 as well. There are places they could have slotted a small DRS zone in, but they didn't for Spain. So I don't quite understand why. I get why Australia got one. Again, don't like it, but it got one. I totally understand that. Bahrain didn't need it. It did get extended, though, which I think was a bit OP. Didn't need it in China. Didn't need it in Baku. Did need it in Spain. Didn't put it in. And it doesn't make sense to me. You know, Monaco, let's not talk about Monaco. You shouldn't have one DRS zone around there, really. It makes no difference whatsoever. But Canada, I'm just going to keep saying that. It's absolutely ridiculous. What do you think in chat? Yeah, I mean, it's every day, but not race day. Oh, that's not, I'm talking about F1 Daily. Yeah, it's not race day. That's the only day we don't do F1 Daily. Tracks that need overtaking opportunities, Monaco, Singapore, Spain. Any other ideas? Oh, good one. Abu Dhabi. I know they've got the long straights, but you don't tend to get too much in terms of overtaking. Sean, I think the FIA is probably trying to make us appreciate the exciting races more than leaving dull tracks dull, but it's kind of a stupid idea. This is the thing, you know, I understand that they want to promote incredible races, but what I will say, and I've said this season already, not every race is going to be a Baku 2017 or a Bahrain this year. Not every race will be. It never has been. There have been some incredibly boring races long before these cars were hard to follow. some terrible races. I'm trying to think of a great example, but I really can't. But there have been some really bad races in the past, and that's nothing to do with DRS or cars not being able to follow. So we're not always going to get epic races, but I kind of think that's part of Formula One. So they don't need to force the issue, particularly on tracks where we already get great races. That's what I'm saying about Spain, for example. And there are tracks on the Canada you could argue, I think somebody said Suzuka maybe could do with another DRS zone if you were going to start putting them in there, although you do get some good racing there. Somebody said on Twitter earlier, perhaps going with 3 DRS zones in Monza would be crazy. But I was talking to John T earlier about it, and I said that if Canada are going to get 3, then surely Russia are going to need about 14 if it's to promote overtaking. So it doesn't make any sense. And to me, it's another classic FIA knee-jerk reaction to problems that, quite frankly, are their own doing. All of this is their mess. They're the ones that make the rules, and now they're going, oh, let's fix it with yet more artificial overtaking. Again, it does its job. That's fine. But I feel like we're missing out as fans on those incredible overtakes that we've seen in the past. And yes, okay, I'm living in the past a bit, but Formula One is a bit like that. That's kind of the fan base it has in many ways, or the majority of the fan base. But when you go back to the days of Schumacher and Hakkinen and some of those incredible overtakes they pull, sometimes I watch, say, driver off the top of my head, Ericsson, for example. That's a really terrible driver to use as an example, but stay with me. He goes for a move on Stroll. He might see the DRS detection point and not pull that move off and wait to get the DRS. I don't want to see that. I want to see him sling it up the inside, Danny Rick style, and go for it. So it's just another knee-jerk reaction, and I tend to agree with what Christian Horner said the other week on it all, when he kind of came out and said, look, there's never been overtaking at Australia. Why are we panicking about it now? And as I keep saying, we're not going to get amazing races every weekend, so I don't understand why it needs to be fixed. And I get trying to promote the spectacle, but to me it's too artificial. I know there are quite a few people that think that, and I think we all agree, or I'd like to hope the majority of us do, that until there's a fix, DRS is doing all right, and we are, as Jonty said there, kind of stuck with it. But we want a proper solution, and 2019 isn't that solution. I hope they come up with it in 2020. The other thing with Canada as well is one of the 2 DRS zones we already have is massively OP anyway down that long back straight. So there you go. The reason I wanted to lead with that story is I came and did a race preview for Canada earlier today, and I kept that rant, and the video ran for about 15 minutes. And I thought I better take that one out, and we'll lead with that one in the F1 Daily tonight. That's kind of what these shows are about. So a couple more questions or a couple more points on the DRS in chat. KERS is the better evil than DRS. I actually agree, Thomas Ashmore. Completely agree. I don't like either particularly, but I would rather have something like KERS where it's driver deployed. The driver gets to decide when they use it. A bit more tactical stuff in play with that rather than 2 or 3 defined DRS points. So I would much rather see a tactical deployment of KERS, just to kind of make it a bit more interesting in that respect. So shorter DRS zones that begin earlier, possibly. I mean, I liked the original idea of the DRS, which was to basically get the cars alongside each other and make the driver do the rest of the work. But as we saw in Bahrain, that wasn't the case. They were getting alongside each other, breezing past halfway down the straight, and that was it. So, why not go back to the tech of the late 80s, early 90s? I think, as much as I'd love that, mate, I absolutely would love that, but Formula One, it's got to evolve, but they've got to do it in the right way. Bottas could not pass Ocon last year on fresh tyres. That's probably says more about Bottas than it does the track, to be perfectly honest. That's not a knock at Bottas, but we've already seen this year what he can do. It would involve a lot of strategy. Exactly, that's why I'd love the idea of KERS. What about linking DRS detection to G-force on the car? Maybe. It's an idea. It might be a bit technologically advanced for the FIA to keep tabs on. What they're a bit like with things like that. So, would that make it safer to deploy? Perhaps, yeah. What about unrestricted use of DRS? I don't like that idea. I feel like that would almost cancel itself out, and you'd also have tracks like Monaco where they've got to restrict it to a point. So somewhere like Russia, I'd go with unrestricted DRS just because, why not? Nothing else works there, so you might as well give it a go. But yeah, we'll move on from DRS because I have got something else to moan about. Surprise! Another story today, and it comes from our favourite track designer in Formula One, Herman Tilke. He's, of course, designed many of the new tracks on the Formula One calendar, and he says that Liberty's aim to add more street tracks could offer up more exciting layouts. Jonty, calm down, mate. It's fine. It is expected that Miami and Vietnam will be the next 2 street tracks added to the calendar. Miami, we believe, next year, October, November time. I would say October, around the time of the US Grand Prix at the moment. And Herman Tilke has said that designing a street circuit offers more freedom than a permanent track. What do you think about that one? I'm not, you know what's coming, but we'll keep going. Chase Carey did say earlier this week, of course, as well, that he is talking to new street venues or potential street venues and saying, look, you know, if you want to do this, you need to show us that you can build a decent layout because the racing needs to be priority, which you totally get. I'm going to read you a couple of the quotes from Tilke very quickly. He says, we are not building permanent tracks only for the high professional drivers. We are also building tracks for all kinds of drivers. But as you see in Baku, that is a track built only for professional drivers. The investor of a permanent track wants to use a track for everybody, not only F1. The trend is going to the city tracks, and this is really good for professional sport. The idea behind it is that it is really unique, and every city is unique. He's mentioned then about Baku and how it's a proper driver's track and whatnot. It's sort of specific to F1 almost. So I will be honest, set up for a massive rant about this one, but I actually kind of get what he's saying, which might surprise a few of you. I don't want more street tracks per se. I don't necessarily want to lose the tracks we've got now. Monaco, maybe adjust it slightly to make it something a bit more interesting as an event rather than a race, because I don't think there's a lot you can do with that one. But I don't want a calendar full of 21 Monaco, Singapores and Baku. But he is right. You know, building a track to be used exclusively by Formula One once a year or designed to suit F1 makes absolutely no commercial sense. None at all. So if you're building a new track, it has got to accommodate for multiple formula and multiple different kinds of series of racing, which is perhaps why we end up with some of these new tracks that are a little bit hit and miss because they kind of have to cater for everybody, whereas a street track could be laid out exactly how they want it to. So I completely understand that side of the argument. However, it is only the Formula One ladder, if you like, that race at Singapore, and that is the layout they have chosen. It is the one they want. Baku as well. And yes, we had 2 great races in Baku, but if you look back at 2016, there is still the prospect of bad racing. I get what he's saying, but it's not always the case. Singapore is designed and laid out by Formula One for Formula One, and although it's better than, say, Monaco in terms of overtaking opportunities, it still doesn't offer up a particularly brilliant race. You know, you got all the drama at the start of last year's race, but other than that, not a huge amount really happened after that. And that's kind of how it is for street tracks. It's all about the start. So I get it, but he's sort of wrong. And I kind of feel like a bit of a dick, to be perfectly honest, telling Herman Tilke would be wrong, but, you know, that's the thing with street tracks. There's always a prospect that you're going to get a bad race. But as I've always said, these street tracks offer one thing, and that is a stunning backdrop. And they are massively unique. They are beautiful. Singapore is fantastic to watch, and everything around Monaco is brilliant to watch. But the racing isn't. And there's the issue. And as I said in the first story, not every race is going to be a thriller, but street tracks are limiting that possibility further. And Liam Wass is controversial. I love Singapore. I do like Singapore. It's a very nice event. It's a very nice backdrop, but the racing isn't brilliant. It's quite a long lap there as well, which I think is kind of detrimental to it in many ways as well. I'm just going to take a couple of your points as well from chat, because I know this will be a bit of a divisive one. We've got a contribution from Gabriel Carpenter, says, your vids got me into F1. Keep up the videos. I will try my best. I will absolutely try my best. We're going to bring these to you every day except a Sunday. So F1 daily-ish, they're calling it on Discord. But that is still 6 days a week, so it's as good as daily. Silverstone is usually a bad race, so I disagree, Matthew, and that's not because I'm British. I know you might accuse me of some British bias there, but I actually think Silverstone, we generally get good races. They're not always epic, I can tell you that, and as good as the atmosphere is there, watching it from the track, it's a lot more boring than watching it on TV. I can promise you that. You only see cars sort of 50-something times. So, vlogging at Charlie, I don't like Chase Carey. I don't know. I'm warming to him, but he kind of, every time I get close to saying he's doing a good job or liking what he's doing, he does something stupid. Yes, I can, RC. How about an Afghanistan Grand Prix? That would be I'm not even going to say that. Sean, I'm going to keep going. Some of these, To be honest, fans don't care for a backdrop or the view, only the racing. absolutely, the racing has to be priority, but if they want these destination cities, they're obviously thinking about the view as well and how it looks. So, John T, we miss you, mate. We really do. If they're aiming for stunning backdrop for street tracks, then surely there's a huge list better. Paris, Moscow, LA, Cairo, Tokyo, Edinburgh, and Prague. I would love a race around Paris. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. Bad racing can happen anywhere, no matter if it's on a street track or a purpose-built track. Absolutely. Trying to think of a good example of that. Abu Dhabi's purpose-built, I suppose, and yeah, that's pretty bad racing. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but street tracks, the point I'm kind of getting at is that street tracks offer more of a possibility that they can be boring, if that makes sense. You know, look at Baku 2016, awful race. 2017, brilliant. 2018, brilliant. So, you know, they're very much hit and miss. And I'm not saying that the likes of Monza are epic every year, because last year's Italian Grand Prix was one of the worst I've ever seen around there in terms of action. But it's more likely you're going to get a half-decent race there than, say, Monaco. And I feel like I'm knocking at Monaco, but we'll throw Singapore in there as well. And do we class Russia as a street track? Out of interest in chat, some do. I am torn on it. It is technically around the streets of the Olympic Park, so it sort of technically is, or the roads of the Olympic Park, but it kind of is purpose-built as well. Matthew Thomason just asking exactly the same question. There you go, mate. Great minds think alike. Hungary is a go-kart track. Russia is awful. It's not a great track, is it? It really is. A bit mixed on that one. Some saying yes, but Vietnam and Miami are the next two street tracks. What are we... A little bit of me's quite looking forward to what they can do in Miami, but if Formula E, I think it is anything to go by, it's probably going to fail quite miserably. They've got to sort that layout out. But yeah, it's a difficult one. It has been a bit of a moany one today, I'll admit that, but to be honest, that's a couple of moany things I wanted to get off my chest. I'm sure it'll come up again. I'll be moaning on Twitter again tomorrow, and a lot of you weren't happy as well. Vietnam is a street track, apparently. Yes, they are the next two in line. Not confirmed for Vietnam. It's still very much a rumour, but it looks like that will be the one. Miami layout looks like a giant axe. It's not a great layout, I will admit that, but yeah, we'll see how they go. Look, you know, it's Herman Tilke. If they start designing street tracks, he's not going to be out of a job because they'll use him for that, but at the end of the day, he's there as a circuit designer. So going back to the Monaco Grand Prix, compared to the previous 5 races, it was awful. Compared to other Monaco Grand Prix, it was actually decent. Not spectacular, but good enough. That's what we said in the race debrief afterwards, Jonathan. It was very much one of those... okay, by 2018 standards, it's been a bit rubbish, but in terms of Monaco standards, it was actually quite good. So nice and tense. So yes, and Tycoon says, before I jump onto the On This Day and end the stream, says, turn your cam on, baby. I'd prefer if you dropped the baby, but I will confirm now, as I said in the channel update, that once we've got Silverstone out of the way and I've got the money together to get everything set up, this will be turned into a proper show, green screen, face, and the whole works. So yes, you lucky people, you'll love that one. But let's hop straight into this effort On This Day, because it is time for me to end this. Otherwise, I could talk to you all night. You know what I'm like. But on this day in 1983, Michele Alboreto picked up what turned out to be Tyrrell's last ever victory in Formula One at the Detroit Grand Prix. He was lucky in the race as a number of the front runners retired, promoting him through the field. He inherited the lead, though, just 9 laps from the end, when Nelson Piquet had a bit of a puncture, a deflating tyre, I think the official term was, and he had to pit in his Brabham to make a late pit stop. The Italian finished the race ahead of Keke Rosberg and John Watson. I miss Tyrrell. They are a team I miss. They disappeared, of course, at the end of 1998 to become BAR and whatnot. You all know the timeline from there, but one of those names, along with Brabham, as I've mentioned there, that are massively missed from Formula One. It'd be great to have them back, but... yes, alas, I don't think it's going to happen, but it has been awesome to have you with me for this one. Like I say, very much still tweaking as we go. It is a work in progress for F1 Daily, so any more constructive feedback, do let me know on Twitter is probably the best place, and Discord as well, and of course Facebook. I am still working on it. We should be able to get that sorted. Facebook are aware they're sorting it out, so fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we'll be able to get Facebook sorted and find another forum to talk to you all on. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with F1 Daily at 8 p.m. There is no video tomorrow, of course, because it's a Wednesday. I don't upload on a Wednesday. The next video will be on Thursday. But in the meantime, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.